Class. So I'm going to be discussing the same questions that you all did in your post. So let me get started. My name is Rebecca Price, and so I want to talk about the techniques that I think are important in building a relationship with Markus while also teaching him the basic tenets of reality therapy. So in the technique I read about in Neukrug's text in the chapter of reality therapy, one of the techniques was share self and adapt to own personality. So I figured telling Markus that being depressed about John being gone is not really going to help him in any way. And I could say that it won't bring him back sooner. It won't get you through your comps. And another part of sharing yourself, I also think that Markus has enjoyed the readings that Mike has given him. So I think that with the two of them discussing the theories and the philosophy of reality therapy, that can actually bring them closer and really help them to build their alliance. Another technique would be to listen for change talk and inner control. Markus already does seem to have some grasp on his inner control and what good behaviors are going to lead him to his pictures of his quality world. So the counselor should continue to encourage him in what's already working and what's going well. We should also want to think about creating some anticipation about like asking questions about what pictures in his new world, what it's going to feel like once he gets through his comps. Telling him you believe in him and encouraging statements are really going to help to propel him into that that picture, that quality world that he really wants to achieve. So I also like the part about being solution focused instead of using problem talk, because in my experience, talking about problems really does just amplify the problems. Whereas if we are solution focused, I think we have a better chance of forward momentum. So next question. If you're going to continue as Markus's reality therapist, how might you use the WDEP system to support him in exploring and creating a plan to strengthen his relationships? So the W stands for wants of the client. D is what the client's doing in their life direction. E is going to be evaluating his thoughts and if his thoughts and behaviors are working. And then finally, developing a plan. So in Neukrug 2018, and I apologize, I don't have the page number here, but I will try to include that in my reference. So teach Markus about the quality world and how he wants to become associated with it. I might ask him questions about what he's doing now, what has worked and what hasn't. I could use some creative exercise that help him see his power and control. Now, I am interested in virtual reality, so I might try to see if there's a app or an environment that I could introduce him to that would help him to experience using power and control in positive ways and being more accustomed to using it. Also, I would recommend asking him about his wants in the 10 areas of his life, including themselves, the world around them, the process of therapy, his school, higher power, friends, relatives. Of course, we know a little bit about his partner and his sister. Talk about his acquaintances in his school. And I don't recall if he was working, but of course, that would be another avenue to explore. I think also that journaling would be very productive so that he could list like his wants and maybe talk about any of the thoughts or behaviors that he's experiencing. about that, behavioral checklists would be really helpful. So if Markus could write down, when he experienced different behaviors that were good or bad, that were meeting his needs or not meeting his needs, writing those down and kind of keeping track of them will help him to see like an overall pattern that he has established. So then once I feel that Markus is ready to make some changes based on my evaluation of his behaviors, I feel that he's going to initiate his own plan of action. I feel the paradoxical therapist directed plan is problem focused, so I might not use that one. But I will think about using the SAMIC, SAMIC, to determine if Markus's plan is doable. So it would need to be simple, attainable, measurable, immediate, involved, controlled, consistent, and committed. So while Markus draws up his own plans, I could help him to meet these planning principles. And if the plan comes a little short to maybe getting him towards his wants, then I can help him to revise his plans. Okay, next question. What multicultural issues does Markus's counselor need to attend to? So I just really focused in on his LGBTQ status and his relationship with his partner and wanting to have a family. I believe that LGBTQ is a cultural thing because it is classified as a minority, and there are different viewpoints on it and stereotypes and things like that. So it's definitely a sensitive topic for people in general. And so with Markus, I could ask him about his belief system as far as like in Wobolding et al. In 2001 on page 36, he would say to specifically ask him, does your belief about family roles impede or enhance the harmony in your family relationship? And so that can bring up a lot of really good information, maybe about his being accepted by his peers and his family growing up, and how he wants to raise his own family as well. It will also help to make the therapist or my practice setting welcome to lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and transgender and families. So what we can do is actually post inclusive non-discrimination policies, post symbols of welcomeness like rainbow signs, transgender flags, safe space signs, and so on. And I read that from Hunt et al., 2018. So the same article also defines some words to avoid. And so homosexual, not used by the LGBT community. Transgenders, transgender is an adjective, not a verb or a noun. Transsexual is an older term that puts emphasis on medical or surgical intervention instead of the experience of our patients or clients. This was a medical article, so it uses the word patients. So gender identity disorder, that's also old terminology, no longer in the diagnostic or statistical manual of mental disorders. Hermaphrodite, it's also often misleading and potentially insulting. So on to the last question. If I was applying rational emotive behavior therapy with Markus instead of reality therapy, what would be two major differences in the delivery of counseling? So I have 4. I'm gonna just focus on the first 2, and then I'll just mention the others because I found them interesting as well. So under the philosophy of REBT, the client is fallible, meaning they might make mistakes, whereas in reality therapy, the client is assumed to be born either bad or good. I found that to be pretty interesting. So I would use standardized tests if using REBT and biographical inventories to access the client's Wherein with reality therapy, instead, I wouldn't use objective measures, but instead use needs analysis with the client and other like self-evaluation and inventories. I would suggest ways for the client can get rid of bad thoughts, behaviors, and feelings and switch to new good ones. And that's with REBT, where we're kind of like directing the client through their change process instead of allowing them to really direct it. And then myself just being the facilitator, as with reality therapy. I would also spend a considerable amount of time educating him about REBT philosophy, which seemed to be a pretty big part of the process, requiring a lot of time. And to do that, I would include like reading materials and videos. This is a little bit more in depth than the education required about reality therapy. REBT they're both actually termed as psychoeducational. But in reality therapy, the focus is more on the client is showing signs of willingness to change instead of adopting that philosophy. So I thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciated watching all of your videos, and I hope that you all have a great evening. Talk to you later. Bye.